A-hole for kicking my brother and his wife out of my house for what they told my son? I'm a single mother living alone with my 13-year-old son. My brother and his wife moved in with us over 2 weeks ago since they lost their apartment because of unemployment. My sister-in-law has been having conflicts with my mom, so I was the only one that was willing to help out. The situation is, my son's room is upstairs along with the room my brother was staying in. My son used to wake up to use the bathroom late at night, which is normal. Every time he walked down the hall, he'd pass his uncle's room. The door was always open, and my brother would get mad when my son walked down the hall and interrupted his and his wife's intimate time. My brother had a conversation with me about it. He said his privacy with his wife was not accommodated by my son constantly passing by their bedroom and interrupting their private time. The reason they left the door open was that the room would get really hot, and keeping the door open gave them a breather, and asked me to give my son's schedule for when it's safe to use the bathroom. I refused and suggested that he get a fan or keep the door shut if he wanted privacy or just stop being intimate, but not try to control my son's movement in his house. The next morning, I found out that my brother told my son he was banned from walking down the hall to use the bathroom from 1 till the morning. My son told me, and I got so irritated and pissed off. I went off and yelled at my brother asking if he really did that. He apologized and said he had no problem with my son taking a second to pass by their room. But his wife was the one uncomfortable and thought it was inappropriate because my son is old enough and understands. It would have been totally fine if he was under 5. Plus, they just wanted privacy without having to suffer hot weather. He came up with the suggestion of me moving my son to be with me in my room, and Mom supported this suggestion just to avoid her daughter-in-law. But I sternly told them I won't be moving my son out of his room under any circumstances whatsoever. I told my brother and his wife to pack their stuff and go look for privacy elsewhere. We clearly can't give it to them. He resisted, but eventually moved in with my mom. My brother is blaming me for the arguments that his wife and mom are having, and my mom isn't speaking to me for putting her in this situation. So, am I the a-hole here? I don't know for how long they'll stay with my mom, but what I did affected her life. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. It's totally unreasonable for them to say your kid can't pee because they want the door open while they're being intimate. I mean, the audacity here is staggering. Yep, the OP and her son are not the a-holes here. The brother and wife could shut the door or don't be intimate. Both are valid options, but they decided to demand a child not to go to the bathroom instead. That is messed up. Wait. They were having intimate time with the door open? Not the a-hole. I'd kick them out the second time they'd leave it open after telling them to close the door, because there is a 13-year-old kid in the house, for God's sake. My brother mentioned this wasn't good for my son too, but his request was unreasonable. Besides the fact that he told my son he was banned from using the bathroom late at night and steamrolled my opinion. Not the a-hole. You didn't choose to put your mother in that position, so your mother can't be blaming you. And your brother and your sister-in-law are a-holes for trying to ban your son from going to the bathroom. Not the a-hole. They could have easily closed the damn door, or maybe opened a window. A fan is another option, as you said. There were many ways in which to make this work for everyone, with them having the door closed. They just needed to be catered to, you know, while you were bending over backwards to help them by letting them stay with you. There was zero reason to move your son's room, and zero reason he would have to change his habits here because of them. They're by far the a-holes. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for not giving my girlfriend equity of my condo? My girlfriend and I have lived together since August 2019 in a rental condo. My income is $320,000 and hers $37,000, and we split our monthly rent of $2,300 so that I pay $1,600 and she pays $700. I pay for our internet cost of $100 a month, and we have no other shared utilities since the unit has heating/water included. My girlfriend works about 30 to 35 hours per week at a job that I got her through my connections, and I work between 60 to 100 hours per week working 2 jobs. As a side effect of this, she takes care of most of the household tasks and cooks most of our meals. She spends about 1.5 hours per day doing household chores and cooking. Now, I've recently purchased a condo with money that I pulled together during the last year or so. Sadly, COVID keeping us at home lets me save up a decent down payment. I also was able to buy a car last year to help us get around safely during the pandemic. We also used that car to teach my girlfriend how to drive. The condo I bought was $970,000. It is in one of the most desirable neighborhoods in our city, and it's a 1,050 square foot, 2-bedroom plus den, 2-bathroom unit. An upgrade from our current rental unit that is about 750 square feet, which is a 1+ den with 2 bathrooms. The monthly cost for my new condo will be $4,350, mortgage plus maintenance fee. My girlfriend and I plan to move into my new condo on July 1st when I close. My girlfriend had insisted on paying rent in the new place since she knows the cost for me will be much higher than our current living situation. We agreed she could pay $700 a month so that her costs don't change from our current rent. My girlfriend didn't help with the down payment, and she isn't on the mortgage or the title. I had a family lawyer put together a cohabitation agreement to ensure that the condo would remain mine alone. Now, my girlfriend is saying that she thinks she deserves some equity in the property based on the rent that she would pay. It doesn't make sense to me. She pays rent now to our landlords and doesn't expect any ownership or equity, so why would I agree to give her equity in a condo that I own? Am I being an a-hole here? Edit. Adding a few additional details. 1. We agreed that in 3 to 4 years, we would buy a detached home together when she's had time to save up money to contribute to the down payment, and we would jointly own that property together, proportionally. 2. Our city is so expensive that she cannot buy property on her income anywhere, not even within a 3-hour drive of the city. 3. If single, she would be paying $1,600 for rent for her own place, or $1,000 for a room somewhere normal. For $700 a month, she could only get a room in a sketchy area with multiple roommates. 4. We will likely get married in 2 to 3 years or so. 5. She chooses not to get a better job with a higher income, because her current job is very relaxed. She regularly watches movies or takes naps while she's on the clock for work, and so she doesn't want to get a different job that pays more because she's concerned she will have to actually work the hours that are expected. 6. The cohabitation agreement also includes a goodwill payment clause that would give her $10,000 per year we are together, to a limit of $100,000 at 10 years. This way, she would not be left with nothing if our relationship ended. Not day haul. That's not how rent works. Seriously, she's choosing to not take a better paying job to contribute to their expenses/rent, and she's getting a fantastic rent deal. She's getting greedy, to be honest. I don't think you're an a-hole. If you were engaged, I'd probably have a slightly different opinion. However, instead of charging her rent, why don't you have her in charge of living expenses like cable, internet, water, heat, groceries? That way, she isn't actually paying you to live at your place, but she does have financial responsibilities for her living arrangements. I guess it might be around $700 per month, and if it's significantly less, maybe add in the HOA? Given the difference in their pay, $700 is pretty damn high for her as it is. I don't love the cost split here. Equity is best left for marriage, and if that's on the table, they should seriously talk about this. I agree it would be cleaner if she paid a bill or two rather than rent. There is a sometimes fine line and sometimes very broad line between differently paid partners, both contributing and one making a profit off the other. The one who makes significantly more should be careful not to do that. Not day haul. I can't imagine demanding equity in something my partner is buying with his own money. That's not how rent works. If she's insisting on paying rent, it's rent. It's not her paying part of the mortgage. If/when you two get married, revisit it of course. But holy crap. Not day haul. 100% agree with you. I'd explain to her she's renting from you now, instead of a landlord. Would she pay for house renovations, taxes, things that break? Of course not. So why would she get all the benefits without any of the cost? Next story. Would I be the a-hole if we didn't trade our suite at a resort with sister-in-law's regular room for her honeymoon? My sister-in-law is getting married. Since they live in a resort area and we haven't had a vacation in forever, my wife and I decided to turn this trip into a vacation for ourselves. We figured why not, since we would have to pay for the plane tickets to get there anyway. So we planned to stay there for a little over a week after the wedding as well, so we could get some relaxation time. While her parents had invited us to stay with them, we didn't want to impose for so long and wanted some private time, so we looked for places to stay for the week after the wedding. We decided to splurge and get a deluxe suite at a resort instead of a regular room. Anyway, we talked a bit about the wedding and the trip with her family, primarily to let them know when our flight would be landing. We also talked about our plans to extend a trip for a week after the wedding as a little vacation for ourselves and would be staying at one of the resorts. They asked which one, and we told them along with how we got a suite and were excited. It was just a casual conversation. However, some of her family think we should give up our suite at a resort for her sister and her future husband to use on their honeymoon. They couldn't afford to go out of town for a honeymoon, so they had gotten a hotel room in town to stay in after their wedding, which the family had chipped in to pay for. However, the place they have booked is more of a regular hotel with a regular hotel room. It really isn't as nice as ours. Everyone is thinking that it is unfair that we will be staying someplace so much nicer than them when we already had a nice honeymoon, and that we are purposely trying to make the couple feel bad about it. Now for the top comments. Not today, Hall. Tell the person who is complaining to pay for the bride and groom's new room. That would shut them up. Her whole family is insinuating this, and they already all pitched in to pay for the hotel room they have booked. If it's such a great concern for them, they all can pitch in more. Not today, Hull. You're already spending money in flying there. The accommodations, and presumably a gift. It's not your responsibility to provide more, and anyone who is pressuring you is way out of line. The people who think you should give up your suite should either 1. Chip in more money to get them a suite, or 2. Shut the hell up. Either way, problem solved. Why should you guys fund their suites by yourselves when it's other people think they should get a nicer room? They should do both at the same time. Shut the hell up, chip in, and stop bugging Opie. Not today, Hull. You booked a vacation for yourselves. It isn't your fault that sister-in-law and her husband can't afford to take a honeymoon. It isn't your fault that they couldn't get a nicer hotel room at home either. I don't think you were under any obligation to trade rooms with them. And shame on the other family members for guilting you into it for having more disposable income. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for choosing to house my ex-wife instead of my sister? I'm 26 male, sort of caught in this, and I'm not sure if I'm the a-hole. My ex and I married right out of high school. We were pressured because she was pregnant with our daughter. It was a pretty toxic marriage, and we were not mature enough for it at all. We split up before my daughter was 2 and have been better co-parents since. Our daughter's 8 now, and things are great. We co-parent well, respect each other, and more civil than we were ever as a couple. When this whole pandemic happened, we were really struggling. My ex wasn't working the same hours, and we literally were losing money paying for a sitter to watch our daughters since they switched to doing school online. We came up with a solution for my ex to move into my apartment. This was to help each other out. Splitting the rent and bills was a lot easier than us doing it on our own. And since she was working certain hours, she could be home watching our daughters, so we wouldn't spend so much on childcare. It just worked. It's been this way for months, and likely keep it like this until my daughter starts going to school full-time again, and my ex finds better work. My twin sister is in the middle of getting a bad divorce with her husband. The bastard was caught cheating on her. She doesn't have anywhere to stay that's close except for me. But my sister really hates my ex. She's hated her since high school, and I found out that was because she at one time caught a boyfriend of hers with my ex-wife. Then to top it off, she hated all the cheating ex-wife did while we were married. I'll say though, we were both constantly cheating throughout our marriage. Neither of us were saints, and I'm glad that we've matured a lot since then for our daughter's sake. My sister knows I also cheated on my ex a lot, but she only acknowledges what ex did during the marriage. And I'm sure it's because it ties into what happened in high school. Still, I offered to let my sister stay, but warned she's gonna have to be used to my ex's presence and be civil in front of my daughter. My ex doesn't care if my sister stays here. She knows the situation, and it's not like she holds anything against my sister's feelings. But my sister absolutely refuses to stay here unless my ex leaves. It's what she's pressuring me to do now because I should understand the feelings this brings up. And yeah, I do, but that was also a long time ago. Plus, we're relying on each other right now. My sister gave me the ultimatum. Either it's my ex or her. And I told her it's going to be my ex because she can't afford to live on her own right now, and that's going to negatively impact our daughter in the long run. I'm being labeled a piece of crap brother now by her for not willing to help her in this situation. Right now, she's having to pay to stay in a motel and keeps telling me she'll end up broke this way because there's no one who can take her in. I just feel bad for the situation and wondering if how I handle this makes me the a-hole. Not the a-hole at all. Your primary responsibility is to your daughter. Supporting her and providing her with a safe and loving living situation is literally a non-negotiable. Providing housing for your sister is just a nice thing to do, and you're even willing to do it. Your sister just wants you to be a piece of crap father by tossing eggs, and against the daughter, out. She's very entitled. No, not my daughter. My sister adores her. The issues are only with my ex-wife. Yeah, but it sounds like your sister, her aunt, isn't actually caring for her by refusing to be reasonable/respectable to her niece's mom. It's actually pretty terrible that she's refusing to put your daughter's well-being above her own. I really hope you understand that this isn't a jab, OP. It's a fact. Your sister doesn't respect your daughter's need for her mother to also be safe and stable. It seems like your sister would rather your daughter not have her mother around than her have to find new accommodations. Not the a-hole. You're housing the mother for your child, and your sister wants you to kick her out. Even though you aren't married, you're always going to be a part of each other's lives. Your sister is also conveniently choosing to ignore the fact that you cheated, so that she has a reason to not like your ex-wife. Your sister's not acting like an adult here. She has no say in who gets to live at your house. You're even offering to let her live at your house if she can just behave. She's choosing to stay at the motel. She's choosing to spend that money. Not the a-hole. You offered to help your sister out. She just doesn't like the terms. I guess she doesn't need a place to stay that badly. She is a serious a-hole for making you choose. It is awesome that you and your ex have worked out a system that really benefits your daughter. Good job making her your #1 priority. Like, I wish it didn't have to be choice. I get right now she's in a really bad spot and I want to help. I can't financially, so this would have been the only way to be able to. I'm glad we did too. It's taken off a ton of stress and my daughter's enjoying it. Update. My wife went out last night and didn't come home until this morning. Original post. This is horrible. I'm furious right now, but I'm also depressed as heck. I know what I have to do. It's just killing me that I have to do it. It's fresh and it hurts a lot. My wife didn't come home last night. She went out with a couple of girlfriends, which is pretty normal for her. She's normally back around 2 a.m. on these nights, so I waited up. Around 2:30, I called to check in. She answered, and I could hear people in the background. She told me they went to a party but were leaving in a couple of minutes. She wasn't home by 3, so I texted. It delivered, but no reply. Around 4 a.m., I called again. It rang a couple of times before she sent me to voicemail. My wife finally came stumbling through the door at 6:47 a.m. this morning. I know the exact time because I was worried. She was wearing a dress she didn't leave the house in, with mesh leggings I'd never seen before either. The leggings had clearly been torn, and her makeup was smudged. My heart sank when I saw her. My immediate worry was that she had been assaulted. She only shook her head no when I asked her that. I asked her what she had been doing then. She only said that I knew what she had been doing, and that kind of confirmed what the voice in the back of my head had been screaming since she walked in. My wife cheated on me last night. I asked her who it was. She shrugged almost casually and said it was somebody they met at the club. She went back to his house and hooked up with him, then Ubered home. She then said she didn't want to fight and just wanted to sleep, so that's what she did. She's still asleep now and didn't even take a shower before passing out. Suffice to say, our relationship is over. We don't have any kids, and we rent, so it shouldn't be an extremely complicated process. I keep trying to reason myself out of it, pretending there might be something to salvage here. I've always maintained that cheating would be a red line for me, though. I think I need to stick to that now. Now for the top advice before reading the updates. If cheating is your deal breaker, and it's a totally reasonable one, the deal has been broken. When she wakes up, she's going to give you the whole song and dance, that she was drunk, that she loves you, etc., etc. But the truth is, she broke your trust, and your heart, and your vows. Stick to your guns and leave the woman who doesn't respect you enough to stay faithful. Thank you. I don't know why it helps to hear it from another person, but it really does. I honestly don't know that I want to hear her out right now. It's not like I'm going to believe anything she tells me anyway. Also, drunk or not, it doesn't sound like by the interaction you two had, she cared one iota. She didn't even try to hide the fact she cheated. You keep trying to reason yourself out of it because this just happened and you're still in shock. The feeling of betrayal is still going to be there when the shock fades, so don't let yourself humor her now. Also, just to be 100% safe, I'd recommend an STD screening. This might not be the first time she's done something of this nature. I really don't think she's done this multiple times. If she had, she'd likely have come home and told me right away anyways. She's always been the type of person who can't keep things bottled inside. I will get tested though. It can't hurt, though I am a little scared of needles. You didn't think she'd do it the first time either. It doesn't hurt to be safe than sorry. If she's done it once, you would proceed in the assumption she's done it before, especially given her attitude. Mini update. Alright, things have happened. I am no longer at home. I left. I wasn't able to get the day off work today though, so I'm writing this on my lunch break. It's been a struggle keeping myself together today, honestly. I've had to sneak off to the bathroom twice to cry. Things rough, dude. I'll post something more detailed later on. Because holy freaking crap, there's a lot. I'm exhausted. I've only slept about 4 hours total since this all happened. Does anyone know if I should post the actual update in a new thread, or just update the one I already made? It's gonna be a lot of text, probably longer than the first one by a bit. Also, to the woman who felt compelled to send me a topless picture, thanks, but also no thanks. My heart just isn't in that sort of thing right now. Now for the first full update. Me again, folks. I'm sorry I didn't get around to this sooner. I wasn't able to get the day off work yesterday because my boss kind of sucks. I was a complete mess at work yesterday though, so I was allowed to take the rest of the week as vacation, thankfully. I think I went through all of the stages of grief while my soon-to-be ex was sleeping. I wasn't expecting my post to get any attention at all. I just figured I needed to try to talk to someone about it because I was not in a good headspace. I made the post in the morning, and by noon she was still conked out in the bedroom. I had processed things a bit more, and I had a rough plan in my head that I was starting to set in motion. I made a short list of questions I wanted answers to, gathered up all my important documents, laptop, etc. Then I went into the bedroom and started packing myself a suitcase. I know a lot of folks wanted me to kick her out. I did consider it, but honestly, I'm not overly attached to this place. We just rent, and I'm in a lucky enough situation to be able to say that paying half the rent for a few months isn't going to financially end me. It'll sting a little bit, I won't lie. But I'll make it, and I feel like being around this place is only going to remind me of her anyway. I need to be looking forward, not back. She ended up waking up about halfway through me packing my suitcase. There was momentary confusion as she looked around the room, then she just started bawling. Maybe this is awful of me, but I didn't bother comforting her. I told her I had the screenshots of her Uber and text messages from her phone, and that plus her confirmation was enough that things between us were completely done. She didn't answer me and just cried louder. I debated trying to continue the conversation, but I decided to just pack the rest of my suitcase and head back out to the living room until she came out. When she finally left the bedroom, she sat next to me on the couch and asked me if we could talk things through. I told her as calmly as possible That wasn't how things were going to work. I was going to ask questions. I wanted honest answers. She told me she'd be honest, so I proceeded. My voice was shaking the entire time. It was taking everything to hold it together, but I kept going. Was this the first time she had cheated? She started crying before she answered that, then told me no. She had cheated on me multiple times over the course of our relationship. It was, and I'm going to use her words exactly here, just sex, a way for me to let off steam. None of it ever meant anything. I wrote a comment shortly after making my post that all the love couldn't just fade away in one swoop. Well, it can. It hit me right then that I wasn't dealing with my wife. The person I was married to literally wasn't in the room. This was someone different. She refused to tell me exactly how many times she had cheated, just more than last night. Had she used protection? No hesitation from her before she nodded her head emphatically. She seemed surprised I'd even ask that. I'm still going to get tested just to be safe. I did some research into timing, and I'm going to look after it. Were her friends also cheating on their spouses? Yes and no. I tried to get her to tell me which of her friends were cheating so I could get in contact with their spouses. She probably should have, because her refusal led to me messaging pretty much every romantic partner of her girlfriends I could find on social media. There are a couple I don't know or couldn't find, but I did my part. Why did she do it? This was the answer that gutted me the most. I'm going to use her exact words again. I need to have sexual variety. I told her that it's not like our sex life is dull, and she clarified, it's not the same as something new. I didn't even have a response to that one. I had expected something about me working too much or not supporting her emotionally. Nope, she just hooked up with other guys because she felt like it and wanted to have some fun. When I didn't respond, she started asking me about counseling and therapy. I reiterated that our relationship was over. I'd be leaving. What she did next disgusted me. My ex actually tried to have sex with me. She put her hands on me and started trying to take off my clothes. I felt like I wanted to vomit and pushed her away after a couple of seconds. She just kept telling me that she would figure out a way to fix it, that we would work through it together. I told her there was no way, and she started bawling again. She went to the bathroom and locked herself inside. I was just sick of everything at that point. I called her mother and told her what was going on. The full story too, the cheating, the questions I had asked, and the fact I was leaving. I've always had a good relationship with my ex's parents. They both decided to drive to town, which is about an hour for them. Once I knew someone was on the way, I just grabbed my things and left. Her waterworks in the bathroom were just annoying me because it felt hollow to me, especially given the answers to my questions. I ended up packing another bag before I left and took all the things I could think of that I felt sentimental attachment to with me. I found a parking lot and sat in my car until I was able to get in contact with a buddy for a place to crash. I tried to take a nap, but I was running on way too much adrenaline. I knew when her parents had made it to the apartment because she started calling me. When I didn't answer those, she started texting me. She had gone from sad and crying to furious. Apparently, I'm a freaking piece of crap for telling her mom everything. Whoops, I'm not sorry. I've received roughly 100 texts from her since leaving. They range from name-calling all the way to begging me to come back, to sending me pictures of the food she ate for some reason. I haven't responded to any of them. I feel like I said my piece before leaving. So that's where I'm at now. We didn't have joint finances, so that part was easy. I canceled all the subscriptions that go to my credit card just to be sure and changed all my important passwords. I'm crashing on a friend's couch for the next bit, but I've got some feelers out to some short-term rental places until I can find something more permanent. I've got feelers out for a divorce attorney too. A coworker of mine had a recommendation, so barring something better, I'll probably go with them. I also wanted to say that I was shocked by how supportive everyone was, and thank you for that. Truly, from the bottom of my heart. It isn't easy for me to talk about emotional things with people close to me. This was an invaluable venting place for me. Thank you all so much. Glad you had the strength to get out of there and not put yourself through more of your ex's BS. I find it funny that she started crying now. Seems like a complete flip from how heartless and cold she was to you when she first came home. Good riddance, and good luck to your future OP. I honestly don't know if she was crying because I was leaving, or just because she was caught and the little universe she had built for herself was crumbling. I'd like to think she cared I was leaving on some level, but her response to the whole thing does make me question. I'm looking into therapy, but as weird as it sounds, I want the anger to fuel me a little longer. The crying was the same reason a child cries when it gets caught with its hand in the cookie jar. The way she responded and acted, and her reasoning behind all of it, tells me she didn't care. She just cared about getting caught, and that this will change her way of living. None of it ever meant anything. That line that so many cheaters use perfectly illustrates how selfish these people are. I read several cheaters posting online using that same excuse. I don't know, maybe there is some truth to it. Maybe in the moment, they aren't thinking about their spouse. It still doesn't change the decisions they make to continually mislead, but maybe it's not an outright lie. To them, it didn't mean anything. And the bit they say not with words but actions is that, neither do you. Final update 4 months later. Hey folks, I'm happy, I guess, to say that this will be the final update to what has been probably the most difficult chapter of my life. I've felt an immense amount of support from the community here from my initial 2 posts, so I wanted to give a short update. Bottom line, my ex and I both signed the final papers for our divorce this week. It feels kind of surreal to think about that still. About 2 weeks into everything, she got resistant. I cut her off entirely, and she refused to return my attorney's calls for a little while. Eventually, things got back on track. As for the infidelity itself, I don't have a ton more details to share with you. We did a short mediation, and by that time, I didn't feel there was any remorse on her end. I've talked about that a lot with my therapist. I'm in therapy, by the way. It still hurts that someone who I thought loved me could have apparently cared about me so little, but I'm working through it. That's really all I've got to share. Thanks again, everybody, for your advice and support. Good for you. I know it's hard, but now you can move on to the next chapter of your life. It feels like a massive weight off my chest, at the same time as I'm absolutely terrified for what comes next. I'm excited, though. Congrats to you. Did you have any communication from her parents at all after the initial call? Also, well done for letting the other partners know. I did talk with her parents a few more times. Nothing too long or in-depth. It seemed they were as surprised as I was, and didn't really know how to handle their relationship with me given what was going on. Did any of the other cheaters your wife was with face any consequences? 2 other relationships ended because of all of this. I spoke briefly with both the other guys, and they had both found out what I had in different ways after I tipped them off to it. Awful situation, but better for all of us in the end, I'm sure. Last story. My soon-to-be ex-wife came out as a lesbian, and I'm not allowed to be angry. I, 31 male, was with my soon-to-be ex-wife, 30 female, for 10 years, married for 6. We met in university, and I moved with her back to her home city after graduation. Just 3 weeks ago, I came home from the gym to find her sitting at the table with a packed suitcase. She tearfully confessed to me that she had been seeing someone for a couple of months, and in doing that, she had realized she was, in fact, a lesbian. She said she was leaving me because she no longer wanted to live a lie. I stood there in complete shock, not even knowing how to react, as she said farewell and walked out the door. It took me a few minutes to process what had just happened, as my life crumbled right before my eyes, and she was gone by the time I was able to try and follow her out the door. I blew up her phone with calls and text messages, just because I felt like the least she could do was talk. Eventually, one of her friends picked up and told me, she can't talk right now. I'll admit in hindsight that there were signs. We'd always had some issues with our sex life, and it was getting worse toward the end. There was emotional distance between us, and we had quite a few rough patches. I'll also admit that I wasn't the perfect husband, but I was never abusive or mean toward her. I did my fair share of the housework, was romantic, and put emotional effort into the relationship. This woman was the love of my life, and I'd be damned if I wouldn't have fought to the bitter end to make our marriage happy. But sadly, none of it mattered in the end. I failed at a marriage that was doomed from the beginning, and it cost me 10 years of my life and most of my 20s. What baffles me the most about this whole situation is, how could she not have known this whole time? I was aware that she was into women. She had dated women before meeting me, and her friends and family are very open-minded. She has a queer cousin. I can't honestly think of any reasonable explanation. I feel like I've been deceived. The worst part is how this is playing out with all our mutual friends, pretty much all of whom were her friends first. The very next day, she made a long-winded post on Instagram describing her coming out story, for which she received an endless stream of likes and comments telling her how she's so brave for living her truth. Most of her friends have outright stopped talking to me and removed me from social media, except a few who have called and stopped by to check in on me. Even then, though, every time I try to vent to them, I'm met with some variation of, "You didn't see how much of a wreck she was," or now, think about how difficult this is for her. Like, what the hell? I'm the injured party here. It wasn't my choice to knowingly enter a marriage with someone I'm incompatible with. I'm a human being with emotions too. Anyway, thanks for listening to my little rant. Now that the initial shock of all this is over, I guess all I can really do is pick up the pieces and figure out my next moves. You are allowed to be angry, regardless if she was figuring out if she was bi or lesbian. She had an affair. She lied. She betrayed you. She could have figured it out without having you on the back burner. She was selfish. Literally this. I'd also like to add, because he asked, that I have outed 2 of my friends to themselves. One is now a bit more gender fluid, and the other spent her college years proving me right. I say all that to say when I told them, they both had the same reaction. "What do you mean I'm gay?" And then I explained, and they sat in silence for a bit, and that's life. But important info, I'd known each of them for nearly half a decade at that point, and that whole time, they were oblivious to where their own heart, eyes, and sometimes hands lingered. Haha. Also, you're allowed to be angry. Anyone who says you can't be has either A, never been cheated on, and or B, never watched the love of their life discover they are not their partner anymore, or had the life they built implode with no hope of piecing it back together. Good for her that she gets to be open, but if it comes at the expense of your joy and relationship, that's a detriment. So you're allowed to mourn that, and scream, and feel the pain. Just promise yourself you'll get up after this chapter closes, time passes, and the absence becomes a little less lonely, a little more welcoming. Taking the discovery of her sexuality completely out of the equation here, she's been cheating on you. That's flat out unacceptable, regardless of if someone is just trying to find themselves. You have every right to be upset by the dissolution of this relationship because you were cheated on. I wouldn't say she led you on in regardless to her sexuality. I didn't fully come into my own sexuality until after my marriage, and so for many, it takes time to figure it out. But you don't figure it out by cheating. That's the biggest issue here, and I'm sorry you're going through this.